Leading multiple generations, it doesn't mean just trying to please everyone any more than leading different ethnicities, races, or other preferences, but it does mean creating an environment where everyone feels seen and heard. And as I've just outlined, each generation may communicate differently and have different expectations in terms of how their voice is heard, whether they're more or less likely to speak up in group forums, for example. So here's what you can do if you want to be an exceptional multi-generational leader. Flex communication styles or inclusivity rather than forcing conformity. So you might have younger team members. Your Gen Z might text you if they're not feeling well that day or work-related stuff. They might send you a WhatsApp asking for if you can have if they can have some annual leave. They might prefer digital check-ins that are more regular, whereas your baby boomer team member might prefer a phone call or an in-person conversation. So if you want to be a really effective leader of all of the generations reporting to you, then you need to adapt your communication style depending on who you're speaking with, as you would be doing anyway. But this is just a new lens. Focusing on shared purpose, right? So purpose is the great equaliser across generations. It is about why. Like as Simon Sinek said, start with the why. It is about why we're doing the work that we're doing. And that why, when you can create alignment across your team, will bridge any differences much faster than doing team building exercises. If you are all there for the same reason, with the same motivation to get the same output, that is what's going to help consolidate and fuse your team. Personalize recognition and feedback. So for some people, sitting down and having a formal feedback conversation might make them feel really professional and valued. It might be something that really resonates for them. Others might like just quick, iterative, informal praise or reinforcement in the moment. Like, oh, great job on that thing. Off I go. Versus, I wanted to talk to you about that thing. Do you have a moment? Let's go and sit down and talk about it. And let me tell you what a great job you've done. So we want to understand what motivates each individual in our team and meet them where they're at. And that's what's going to really transform engagement. A great opportunity that you have if you have a multi-generational tool is mentoring. And that works both ways, right? So you might have a more experienced, older person in your team that you could partner with a younger person in the team, and they can impart some of their wisdom and experience and their strategic knowledge. But also you can do this idea of reverse mentoring where the younger team member can then also share what they do and how they can be more agile or lean into more digital and technological advances. So the way you can bring the strengths from each individual is to bring them together and help them to share their strengths with one another. It's going to build trust and empathy and more understanding, but it's also going to bring more innovation. You're going to get better outcomes. So have a little think. Is there somewhere that you could be a bit more flexible, maybe in your communication or feedback style? Is there somewhere that you could lean in and listen a little bit deeper? Could you create a bit more space for individuality? And then the other thing, what generation are you from? And how does your generation influence how you lead? Now, what happens, or how do we manage friction or misunderstanding? Leading across generations isn't always smooth, but neither is leading multiple individual human beings. So sometimes it can feel like people are just missing the mark. They're speaking different languages, they're coming from a different perspective. You might find this does happen quite a bit where younger employees or even people who are newer to the business will come in and question established processes. And often those processes have been established by the older members in the team as they were coming through. So that can feel like their experience is being diminished or not respected. And so this is where your presence as the leader really matters. So you can lean in and help people to understand the other perspectives. But we want to make sure that we're getting curious before we get critical. So asking questions like, what is making this challenging for you? What do you need from me to feel more supported here? What would success look like? How can we move through this together? Sometimes just creating space for those conversations is all it takes to rebuild connection, but also trying to impart some more self awareness and empathy in each of the individual team members so they can realize that whilst their colleagues might do things differently, no one's inherently doing them wrong. It's just different. Some teams choose to go down the path of a team mission statement or a team charter or purpose statement, which can be helpful to create this shared agreement on how you'll work together, communicate, give feedback. Even if you didn't do something that formal, just getting those assumptions off the table and being more transparent and overt with that communication can be really beneficial. And then finally, model curiosity for yourself. What generation are you coming into the team from? And how does that generation, whether it's the actual generation and your upbringing and the generational norms, or maybe it's just the phase that you're in life and the age that you are, how are all of those things influencing how you show up as a team member, a peer, and a leader? The exciting thing here is that the future of leadership isn't about managing differences, it's more about integrating them. As our workplaces finally become more diverse, not just in age, but in everything, thinking, background, preferences, identity, neurodivergence. Leaders who succeed will be the ones who can unite people around the shared goals and purpose while still celebrating each team member's individuality. So having this many workplaces isn't necessarily a challenge. It can be a competitive advantage if you know how to lead it well. So as your team, as you lead your team this week, I really encourage you to start noticing the patterns, the different perspectives, the different needs, and treat them as strengths and see how you can bring people together. Because the best leadership doesn't come from treating everyone the same. It comes from treating everyone as if they matter.